After his first love died, Marcus went silent. 4 years into our marriage, he was always so cold and distant, showing zero interest in me whatsoever. But later, I caught wind of his buddy ribbing him. "Boss Marcus, you must be choking from faking being mute at home every single day." And Marcus, who was supposed to be silent, had this icy tone. "I'm not faking being mute. I just can't stand anything related to her." When I blinked again, I was transported back to before his first love passed away. I shoved him towards his first flame, but he shook and asked, "Why are you pushing me towards someone else?" On Marcus's birthday, I had put together a special present for him. I cooked a spread of tasty dishes. However, I waited forever, but he never showed. The food went cold. I asked one of his pals and found out Marcus was at the Cloud Bar. My heart felt empty, and I numbly got up and sprinted over. The private room was lit up with parties and laughter. Inside, there was a mix of guys and gals, all Marcus's friends. I was just about to kick the door open when I nudged the private room door slightly. The voices inside suddenly became super clear. I heard Marcus's bestie teasing him. "Boss Marcus, you must be feeling suffocated from faking being mute at home every day." At that moment, a shiver ran through me. Someone next to him chimed in, "Yeah, that girl Emma is way too tough. I wouldn't want to live with her either if I were you. Marcus, how long are you going to keep faking being mute? It's been 4 years already." I was genuinely worried about Marcus's health and had rushed over in a panic. I feared that drinking was hurting him. My ears were ringing. My legs felt like jelly and wouldn't cooperate, so I squeezed my fist tight, and only by digging my nails into my palms could I hold back my voice. In the private room, Marcus, who was supposed to be silent, had this cold tone. "I'm not faking being mute. I just hate everything related to her." He suddenly scoffed. "She's so clueless. She hasn't realized that I've been pretending to be mute for 4 years. Yeah, Marcus, you bounced back a month after the car crash, but Emma didn't notice it at all. Marcus, if it weren't for Chloe, you wouldn't have to deal with her. Today's Marcus's birthday. Let's not even bring up Emma." Marcus's face darkened, and he grabbed his wine glass and chugged it in one go. So weird. Even from this distance, and through the crack of the door, I could see Marcus's eyes were bloodshot. It was seriously ridiculous. For the past 4 years, I truly believed that Marcus had been so affected that he'd never speak again. But I didn't care about that. So what if he couldn't talk? I could still communicate. So I talked to him and tried to cheer him up every day. I'd share a bunch of stuff that happened that day. I took the initiative to cook for him and help him build up his health every day. I hoped that one day I could have a spot in his heart. Years passed, and even Iraq should have been warmed up by me. There was just one name I never dared to mention. Chloe. Marcus's first love. She actually owned this bar, and she was someone I could never compare to. I shut the door, and the voices inside were instantly cut off. I couldn't hear those snarky comments anymore. My head felt dizzy. Someone seemed to call me Boss Emma from behind, but I didn't have time to pay attention to it. I stumbled to the side of the road and shakily took my phone out of my pocket. My fingers were trembling too. My vision got blurry. Suddenly, I realized my hypoglycemia had kicked in. I grabbed a candy and popped it in my mouth. Finally, I texted Marcus. "Marcus, let's get a divorce." The birthday gift I gave him was a divorce agreement. I didn't ask for anything, just the house where we had lived for 4 years. It was also at this moment that I clearly realized one thing. I could never compare to someone who's already gone. Whether in the past or future, suddenly, a bright light flashed and I saw a truck heading my way. There was a familiar yet strange voice behind me, shouting my name loudly. "Emma!" When I opened my eyes again, I was back 5 years ago. Nothing had happened yet. Marcus's first love hadn't died, and Marcus and I weren't married yet. I was in a state of pure bliss. At that time, I had just graduated. Marcus's family had taken a huge hit, and his first love had moved abroad. In my previous life, for his sake, I decisively quit my job with a bright future. I went to Marcus's company to work hard with him step by step. Due to long-term overwork and irregular eating, he had serious stomach issues. I made him nutritious meals in different ways every day. At business dinners, to get those pot-bellied bosses to sign contracts, I was afraid Marcus's stomach couldn't handle too much alcohol, So I often drank on his behalf and got those bosses drunk instead of him. At that time, Marcus might have really been touched by me. When I was puking badly, he didn't show any disgust for me once. Instead, he made soothing tea for me. After a long silence, he asked me, "Emma, was it worth it?" Even when I was drunk, I didn't forget that I liked him. I smiled with my eyes crinkling. "Was it worth it?" Even when I was drunk, I didn't forget that I liked you. I smiled with my eyes crinkling. It was worth it. I like Marcus the most. That emotional touch back then couldn't withstand the long years and his longing for his first love. Later, I found out he really wasn't worth it. This time, I wouldn't quit my job for him. My phone rang. It was Marcus. His voice sounded a bit rough as he asked, "Has your resignation been approved?" I looked at the resignation letter in my hand. If I hadn't been reborn, I would have immediately gone to the boss's office to submit my resignation letter. Then, without accepting the boss's plea to stay, I would firmly move to a small company with nothing and work hard with Marcus for several years. His first love would be snatched away and her body dumped abroad. Marcus would be so depressed that he'd become mute. Finally, he would half coerce and half tempt me into marrying him. I smiled and said, "Marcus, I just texted your first love telling her about your current situation. She said she'd come back. From now on, let her be with you." There was a long silence on the other end. He must have frowned. He asked in a deep voice, "What do you mean by this?" I said word for word, "I mean, whoever wants to quit can quit. I won't quit my job at a Fortune 500 company." "You?" Before he could say more, I had already hung up the phone. The bottled-up frustration in my chest eased a lot with that sentence. Suddenly, a familiar, deep voice came from behind. The person asked with a smile, "Do you like this job that much?" I turned around and met Victor's eyes. There was a grin. "Do you like this job that much?" I turned around and met Victor's eyes. There was a smile at the corners of his eyes. I remembered that in my previous life, many people had kicked me when I was down. There were also many who didn't think highly of my relationship with Marcus. But when I drank until my stomach bled and still couldn't sign that contract, it was Victor who spoke well of me. It was also a long time later that I found out. Originally, that boss had planned to cooperate with him. It was his suggestion that made the boss agree to sign the contract with me. In my previous life, until I died, I didn't have a chance to thank him. I couldn't help but feel my eyes a little moist and bowed 90 degrees to him. "Boss Victor, thank you." Victor said, "Although I don't know why you're thanking me, you don't need to. Next time, save that big bow for my funeral." I was silent. "You deserve to be single until I die." Since I met Marcus in college, I had always liked him. But at that time, the story of his liking Chloe was all over campus. A group of people even posted on the confession wall just to dig into their relationship. Unfortunately, in the end, they didn't get together. I thought I'd have a chance. After graduation, I had been hanging around Marcus all the time. Every time his bros saw me, they'd tease me. "Oh, Marcus's little tail is here again? She's just not as good looking as Chloe." "Why don't you bring Chloe here?" It seemed that they didn't see me as a person at all. They just treated me as a joke to make fun of at parties. When I got mad, Marcus just frowned. "Don't make a fuss, they didn't mean that." Some people can do everything well, but they tend to lose their chill when it comes to love. I lowered my standards for him time and again, but now I wouldn't do that anymore. I continued to work in Victor's family group. I originally thought that with Marcus's arrogant personality, he wouldn't come to me at all. But when I got off work that day, a familiar car stopped in front of me out of nowhere. It almost grazed my leg. The car window rolled down, revealing Marcus's cold face. He frowned tightly and said in an almost impatient tone, "Emma, what the hell are you doing? You just let go of the promise to resign like this? All the stuff you said before about liking me and coming to the company to help me was just playing games?" I grinned brightly. "Yeah, so what are you gonna do about it? Only if I were out of my mind would I follow you to start a business with such a sweet job offer." Marcus was stunned. He didn't get why I had changed so much and what had gotten into me. After a few seconds, he suddenly sneered, "Emma, the whole playing hard to get trick doesn't suit you." Suddenly, a hand was placed on my waist. From above my head came the other person's calm and cold voice. "When we get married and have the wedding party, remember to bring your playing hard to get as a gift." It was Victor. Marcus didn't recognize him and looked at him unfriendly. Emma, who's he? I asked weakly in return. Marcus, who are you to me? On what grounds are you questioning me? Chloe is coming back soon. Since you like her so much, I hope we can break up cleanly before she returns. I'm not interested in being friends with someone I used to like. Maybe I used this trick when I was mad before. Marcus didn't believe me at all. He sneered. Emma, you said you wanted to break up with me last time, but you came to me within 3 days. Are you trying to use the same old trick again? I bet you'll come back to apologize within 7 days. I nodded. Okay, then just wait and see. I resumed my peaceful life. As I hoped, Marcus didn't come to bother me. I heard that his first love, Chloe, had already returned to China, and he went to pick her up at the airport. How nice. The tragedy of the past life didn't happen. Chloe wouldn't die, and I wouldn't marry Marcus. 2 days later, Victor suddenly approached me. There's a party on Wednesday. Can you come with me? 10 times the salary, paid daily. My eyes lit up, and I quickly nodded and bowed. Only I, your humble servant, can handle this job. It was a piece of cake for me, really easy. A faint smile appeared at the corners of his eyes. When I arrived at the party, I realized something was off. I kept bumping into one of Marcus's friends every few steps. Luckily, Marcus hadn't made a comeback yet and hadn't mingled with them. I had just left the restroom when I ran into Marcus face to face. His eyes were cold, and he couldn't hide the smugness in his brows. Emma, it's only been 3 days, and you can't wait to come to me to apologize? I exclaimed. Where did this waiter come from? So rude. His face turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. Suddenly, he noticed the expensive evening dress I was wearing and frowned. Yeah. Is it just for money that you didn't resign and stayed with me? I stared at him with a look that seemed to say, who do you think you are? Just think about it yourself. No need to humble yourself by comparing you with money, right? Maybe he couldn't accept that the person who'd always admired him suddenly ignored him. Marcus said in a deep voice, Emma, how long are you going to keep pretending? Even though Chloe has come back, if you want to come back, I'll welcome you without holding grudges. You can't afford my monthly salary even with all your stuff. On what grounds are you welcoming me? By your shameless will. Without the love-struck mindset, my IQ's taken the high ground. Marcus's eyes turned cold. He stepped forward and grabbed my wrist tightly, staring straight at me with a piercing and intimidating gaze. Emma, don't make me angry. Marcus, even dogs are eating dog food these days, you know? For a moment, he didn't react and couldn't figure out why the topic had suddenly shifted to this. What do you mean? What I mean is that if there's dog food available, just eat it properly. Don't go outside and eat other people's crap. It's unhygienic and makes your mouth stink. It's also unfair to Chloe. I showed my teeth in a big, bright, and bold smile. There was no longer the previous meekness and caution in front of him. Besides, if I was gonna like someone, I'd like someone good-looking. Look at yourself. Which part of you can compare to our boss? I put one hand on my hip and finished speaking without missing a beat. A faint pain came from my wrist, but it faded when I saw a certain determination in Marcus's eyes shatter bit by bit. Suddenly, a familiar deep and low voice sounded behind me, with a smile and a gentle yet serious tone. Emma. Emma, seems like you have some taste after all. That hand unhesitatingly pulled mine out of Marcus's grip and gently rubbed the red mark. Does it hurt? I looked at Victor in astonishment, and a lot of my defenses dropped. I subconsciously nodded. He twitched the corner of his mouth, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. If it hurts, hit him back. If you hit him back once, I'll give you a 10,000 yuan raise when we go back. I rolled up my sleeves to reveal my biceps, like a wild female gorilla. Your servant obeys your order, Emma. Marcus's face didn't look good at all. Victor, on the other hand, seemed much more relaxed. When I was about to rush up and hit someone without caring about anything, he held my wrist with one hand and laughed. How could I let you really hit him? At some point, a group of people noticed the weirdness here. The people behind didn't know how long they'd been watching. I noticed with sharp eyes that some of Marcus's friends from last time were also there, and they clearly didn't look friendly towards me. One of them stepped forward and said, Boss Victor, peace is precious. No need to spoil the vibe because of a woman. I didn't say anything. For a long while, Victor didn't say anything either. Everyone was staring at him. I subconsciously looked up. I heard his voice say, "He's using gender to suppress you." With me here, can't you use financial power to suppress him? I must have had my brain kicked by a donkey 3 times in a row in my previous life that I resigned, right? Boss Victor, that's not necessary. His gaze made me extremely uncomfortable. I suddenly remembered this person's character. In my previous life, when I was with Marcus, he often made dirty jokes about me. After I got mad, he'd raise his eyebrows with a smile and say, "It's just a joke. Why are you so rigid?" Marcus lowered his head and typed a message for me to see. "Don't make a fuss. If you don't want to stay, just leave." I deliberately smiled in front of his girlfriend and said, "There's a hairy mole on his left chest. I saw a lot of his fully naked videos online some time ago." Everyone's eyes focused on me. That man had a girlfriend. How did I know such private things? In my previous life, when I followed Marcus to attend their brother's dinner party, I heard them discussing it. Moreover, this man was unfaithful in relationships. The woman beside him had a furious face and slapped him across the face, shouting, "You scumbag!" I then looked at the other people in the crowd. "Oh, and you cheated on your brother with his girlfriend behind his back? And you? It seems you teamed up with your brother's rival behind his back and made your brother lose hundreds of millions for nothing." They were dumbfounded. "No, how does this woman know everything?" They were afraid I'd say more. "Boss Victor, give me some face and ask her to stop talking, okay?" Victor smiled brightly and unrestrainedly. "My Victor family dominates in Jingbei. How much is your face worth? Is it enough if I pay you by card?" The whole place went dead silent. That group of Marcus's friends from the previous life. They all cursed him in their hearts at the same time. Damn it, why did you have to provoke that couple? Victor really helped me a lot this time. He not only helped me confront Marcus, but also helped me regain my dignity in front of Marcus's future friends. With Victor around, Marcus might not be able to make a comeback like he did in the previous life. I was satisfied. When I went back, I clasped my fists towards Victor. "Boss, I'll never forget your great kindness. For saving my life." He coughed lightly, and a faint blush appeared on his face. "Well, it's not impossible if you want to marry me as a way to repay me." At the same time, I finished the second half of my sentence. "I'll be your ox or horse in the next life." His face darkened. "Why not in this life?" I calmly said, "Because I'm really not that virtuous." "Are you unhappy? Do you want me to kneel down on both knees and count out to you 3 times to show my highest sincerity?" "That's not necessary. Marcus has his pride." After the last incident, he calmed down for a while. I was happily working in the company. Before, Victor said that if I slapped someone, my salary would be increased by 10,000 ween. Although he didn't let me hit anyone in the end, he really gave me a raise. He said, "Just consider it as the reward for listening to so much gossip." As I expected, without my help, Marcus. With my interference and Victor's involvement, many people in the capital city didn't dare to cooperate with Marcus. Just as he was starting out, he took heavy blows one after another. That small company was on the verge of collapse, and I just heard that Chloe left him again. Marcus was down in the dumps for a while and didn't contact me either. However, I received a call from Marcus's father. "Emma, why haven't you come over recently? Your aunt and I have been talking about you every day at home. These days, your aunt misses you so much that she can't sleep well. She's been sick and lying in bed these 2 days, feeling so weak that she often calls your name in the middle of the night." The moment I got the call, my heart was slightly touched. In my previous life, another reason that was enough to support me to stay by Marcus's side was his parents. His parents were very kind to me. Every time they saw Marcus ignore me, they would take turns criticizing him. Until later, he was so affected that he became mute. Marcus's parents couldn't bear to say anything more to him. I silently clenched my palm, and my eyes became moist. I said in a hoarse voice, "Uncle, I'll come visit you after I'm done with my work in these 2 days. Ask Aunt to take good care of herself." Okay. Hearing the happy laughter on the other end, I asked in a low voice, "Uncle, isn't Marcus at home, right?" There was a second of silence on the other end. No. "That brat doesn't dare to come. Emma, just come over. Your uncle and aunt will always have your back." Only after getting the affirmative answer did I breathe a sigh of relief. I didn't want to see Marcus, nor did I want to have any contact with him. But Marcus's parents were so kind to me before, and now that aunt is sick, it would seem ungrateful if I didn't go. During this time, I had the idea of starting my own business. When I was with Marcus before, I had been exposed to a lot of things and learned a lot. I dare say there's no problem with my professional ability. I also talked with Victor in advance. He raised his lips and said, "Emma, from the very beginning, I knew that your platform would never be limited to just this." After finishing my work in these 2 days, I went to Marcus's house on Saturday. I almost forgot where their family lived before Marcus became wealthy. I just remembered that later, Marcus let them live in the biggest and nicest villa. I carried a lot of gifts and entered the door. Uncle greeted me with a big smile and joked with me. Everything was the same as in my previous life. They were still as warm as ever. After chatting for a while, I helped Aunt go back to the room to rest. With tears in her eyes, she said, "Emma, you're so virtuous and kind-hearted. It would be great if Marcus could marry you." I didn't comment. Virtuous isn't really a good word. After tidying up, I got up and was about to say goodbye and go home. Suddenly, Aunt grabbed my hand. "Emma, could you help Aunt go to the room next to Marcus's to find a necklace?" I nodded, but I missed the guilt that flashed in her eyes. I entered that room, saw the cabinet Aunt mentioned, and quickly walked over. I found the necklace Aunt mentioned inside. Just as I got up, there was a sound behind me. I quickly turned around, only to see the closed door. The uneasiness in my heart grew stronger. I tentatively asked, "Uncle? Aunt? Could you please open the door for me?" Aunt's voice came from outside the door. "Emma, you and Marcus have misunderstandings that need to be cleared up. Don't blame Aunt. Aunt just wants you to be okay." My heart seemed to suddenly drop from a high altitude. The hanging heart finally died. "Emma, don't bother trying to get out. Uncle has remodeled this room, and most people can't open it." At that moment, I didn't know what it felt like in my heart. I just felt as if my whole body was in an icy lake, constantly sinking. I took out my phone, and sure enough, there was no signal at all. She wasn't sick. She deliberately lured me here. They even prepared this room long ago and knew that I would help them find things. They really went all out to lock me in this room. Not hearing my voice, Uncle also said, "Emma, don't worry. Uncle and Aunt don't want to do anything to you. Marcus will be back soon. Then you two can have a good chat, okay?" There was no room for me to refuse at all. When Marcus came back, I was sitting on a chair in the room, staring at the door expressionlessly, until I heard the sound outside the door. The door was open from the outside in an instant, revealing Marcus's face. He rushed up and hugged me tightly. His breathing was heavy and fast. Emma, you still care about me, right? Mom and Dad said that they lied to you about me having a car accident, and you immediately came to see me without hesitation. If there really was such a time, only you would be by my side." I let him hold me and didn't move. After a long while, he still didn't let go. I twitched my lips and smiled extremely sarcastically. "Marcus, aren't you cheap?" He froze completely. "A good horse never turns back to eat the grass it's passed by. What's more, it's grass that's been rotten from the roots. Your parents imprisoning me is illegal, you know?" He opened his mouth. I said firmly, "You know, and you also know that the story your parents made up about you being sick to trick me here is false. But you pretend not to know, as if you can distance yourself from it. I shouldn't have had any illusions about your parents. Your whole family is just as bad." His whole body exuded a cold and fierce aura. He pinched my chin tightly, forcing me to look up at him. "Emma, don't challenge my bottom line again and again. Didn't you like me the most before? Before I didn't understand and let you down, but now I understand. I don't like the Chloe in my fantasies, but you, who are by my side, let's start over, okay? I know that last time Victor pretended to be your boyfriend, and you two aren't in a relationship." If it were in my previous life, before I decided to sign that divorce agreement, hearing these words would really have moved me to the point of agreeing. However, some words, once they miss the best time, are just meaningless. I used a sentence he said in his previous life and threw it back at him. "Marcus, don't make a fuss. You've lost such a nice girl like Chloe. How useless you are." Marcus's voice was hoarse. "She's nice, but I only like you. She doesn't understand me. She just thinks that I'm not hardworking and enterprising, that I can't make a comeback. And she has never recognized me. She even compares me with other self-made bosses and looks down on me." He didn't really like me that much. The reason why the first love is the first love is precisely because it's like the moon hanging high in the sky, always out of reach. People always hold on to their obsessions for things they can't get. And now, Chloe is back. She's also accompanying Marcus to start a business together just like I did back then, wanting to build a business empire. They had a happy time for a while. Just like an ordinary couple, Chloe would also comfort him and support him in starting his business. However, unexpectedly, Chloe is different from me. She likes to comfort others in an inspiring way. Before President Jiang's family went bankrupt and he started his own business, he went to talk about business with other bosses every day and drank until midnight every day. There wasn't a single day when he was sober. Once he almost died from drinking too much. And President Wang doesn't look at how good his company scale is now. His company went bankrupt twice before, and he almost committed suicide, but he still managed to get through it. You should learn more from other people's entrepreneurial experiences and see if you can draw some lessons. After all, you majored in finance at the beginning. Starting a business shouldn't be difficult for you. I was much gentler back then. I'm not actually that kind of person. I'm rather impatient. Being so love-struck made me change my temperament a lot, but now I'm not actually that kind of person. I'm rather impatient. Being so love-struck made me change my temperament a lot, but now I'm sober. I smiled and said to him, "Wasn't what she said right? Marcus, no one wants you, but I'm wanted by others. Okay?" Marcus's eyes were red, and he could hardly speak. In this life, without my help, perhaps Victor would never have given him that order with the largest amount, which was the key to his success back then. But it's gone now, and there's nothing we can do about it. He was so angry that he slammed the door and left. He only threw out a sentence, "Emma, I hope you can be more sensible." I don't usually socialize much. During this time, I've had the most contact with Victor, but he's the boss of the company. Tomorrow is Sunday again. Perhaps no one will notice that I'm not around at all. I curled up in the chair and quietly looked at the tiny window on the wall, vaguely catching a glimpse of the moonlight outside. A soft sound broke my thoughts. I was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from above my head. "Emma, you didn't even react when you heard the sound. Why are you so dumb?" I looked up and saw a figure that shouldn't have appeared here. Victor opened that window. He stuck his head in, with a look in his eyes that seemed to be smiling but not really, looking a bit funny. But I keenly sensed his eyes that seemed to be smiling but not really, looking a bit funny. But I keenly sensed that he seemed to be angry. "Boss Victor, why are you here?" He retorted, "If I didn't come, I'd have to wait for you to get out by yourself. I don't know how much work would be delayed." What an evil capitalist. 1 second. 2 seconds. Quite a while passed, and we just looked at each other without saying a word. Suddenly I asked, "Boss Victor, have you called the police?" He raised his eyebrows. "Are you willing to call the police?" "Of course I'll call the police. They've imprisoned me and restricted my personal freedom." "Why wouldn't I call the police?" Victor muttered to himself, "I thought you liked Marcus so much that you wouldn't call the police." Victor muttered to himself, "I thought you liked Marcus so much that you wouldn't call the police." What? Nothing? I really couldn't imagine. In what position could Victor stay on that small window so steadily for such a long time? I quickly urged him to call the police. He tested, then should I really go? Go ahead, go ahead. But quite a while passed, and he still didn't move. I looked at him in confusion. He pursed his lips tightly and was rarely so serious and solemn for once. "I'm afraid that if I go down, you'll be scared." I was puzzled. "Scared of what?" He looked away. "Aren't you afraid of the dark?" "How do you know that?" "I am afraid of the dark." But after staying with Marcus for a long time in my previous life, he would say to me, "What's there to be afraid of in the dark? Can't you stop being so pretentious?" So this was being pretentious. Later, I forced myself not to be afraid. Gradually, it seemed that I really wasn't that scared anymore. I stared straight at him, but he didn't dare to look at me. Marcus seemed to have heard the noise in the room. At the moment when he opened the door, Victor had already left the window. The high-hanging window returned to its original state, and the moonlight shone in through the window. Marcus then felt relieved. "Are you hungry?" I didn't reply to him. I was waiting for Victor. He said that he would take me out safely. When the police cars arrived, Marcus's family was all stunned. The signal was blocked, so I couldn't make a phone call or communicate with people outside. Marcus didn't know what he was thinking. Suddenly, he turned around and looked at me, who had a calm face. He also saw the scene where Victor walked quickly over and hugged me into his arms. I stared at him blankly. Suddenly, I asked softly, "Victor, did you know me before, knowing that I was afraid of the dark and giving me the order in my previous life? Finding that he couldn't get in touch with me, he could still find Marcus's place." It was hard not to be suspicious. He stiffened slightly, and his face became even more silent and cold. "I originally planned to put a QR code on my tombstone after I died so that you could scan it to see what you had forgotten. But you found out in advance. How annoying." "But you don't look annoyed at all. It's just that he's not willing to mention the past now." Marcus ran away. The police couldn't find where he was. Victor was worried about me and sent me home in person every day. He wouldn't leave until he saw the lights in my house were on. For several days in a row, I was fine. I frowned tightly, not knowing why Marcus had run away. Doing so would only make his punishment more severe. Although his company was small in scale, the investment was huge. Almost all the remaining money in their family had been invested in all of his projects. There was a bidding activity some time ago. I came across it while working. The Victor family also seemed to plan to participate in the competition. I don't know why the Victor family didn't succeed in the bidding in my previous life, but instead Marcus and I got the opportunity by chance. Now his company is in a state of being leaderless and is almost in chaos. I felt even more complicated in my heart. Seeing the company that I had worked hard to manage in my previous life become like this now, I felt a bit lost and sad in my heart. Victor knew about it earlier than I did. It was he who called me to his office and told me about it. He raised his eyelids and looked over slowly. "Emma, how could you have liked such a man before?" I shrugged. "I don't know. I'll give him to you if you want." He gritted his back teeth and suddenly laughed angrily. "I don't want my future children to have a criminal record. I know the world's top ophthalmologists. I'll send you to have your eyes checked for free." "How come you can't see a good man even when he's right in front of you?" Having liked Marcus is like having a criminal record, making one so timid. "I've been so busy these 2 days that I'm dizzy, and Marcus hasn't shown up either. Before long, I won't have to work for others anymore. I won't live for others either. I have the ability. Why should I work for others?" Victor fully supported my decision. He said that if a company is afraid that its employees are too capable and worried that they will quit and start their own businesses, then this company won't go far. The nightlights were dim. When Victor sent me to the entrance of the community, I asked him to let me off. During this time, the security guards all thought that he was my boyfriend. I didn't want to cause misunderstandings. Victor said slowly, "Okay, I'm afraid that I'll delay you from finding a boyfriend." I summoned up my courage and walked into the community by myself. I didn't suddenly remember until I got near my home that the light at the entrance was broken. I felt a bit scared in my heart. Just as I walked into the stairwell, a hand stretched out towards me from the dark. Before I could react, the other person had already pulled me into the stair compartment. Another hand tightly covered my mouth, and I couldn't make a sound. At the moment when our breaths intertwined, I seemed to hear the other person's violent heartbeat. I was so familiar with Marcus in my previous life. As a result, it didn't take me long to guess that it was him, but he was clearly still wanted by the police. Marcus. He slowly loosened the hand covering my mouth. His breathing was heavy and his heart was beating fast. His eyes were as black as a deep pool, fixedly staring at my eyes. I forced myself to stay calm. "Marcus, don't do anything wrong." His voice trembled again and again, like a lost child, full of confusion and helplessness. I seemed to have already done something wrong. What should I do? Was he referring to giving up Chloe? Or collaborating with his parents to lock me up? He slowly held my hand. I could feel that his palm was sweaty and still shaking. In the dark, I noticed that his eyes were a bit red. He said in a trembling voice, "Emma, why did you push me to others? Don't you like me anymore?" My mind went blank. I pinched my palm to stay calm. He continued slowly, "During this time, I always dreamed about you. At this moment, Marcus shouldn't have liked me." He went on, "In the dream, I clearly realized that it was you and me, but those scenes had never happened before." I looked at the stairway, thinking about how to escape, and replied perfunctorily, "For example." In the dream, I dreamed that Chloe didn't return to China, but died abroad instead. I pretended to be mute. Later, you firmly decided to marry me. I also dreamed that you had been accompanying me to struggle, helping me make a mute. Later, you firmly decided to marry me. I also dreamed that you had been accompanying me to struggle, helping me make a comeback. You even drank until you had stomach bleeding when helping me sign orders with those bosses. I slowly looked up at him. I could hardly believe it. All these things had actually happened in my previous life. How could he dream about them? I kept a straight face. If this is all you want to tell me about these unfounded things, then you found the wrong person. He held me back. His eyes trembled slightly, and his whole body seemed to be broken. "Emma, you've also been reborn, right?" I asked indifferently. "Marcus, are you crazy?" As soon as these words were said, he really seemed to go crazy. "When I found out that you liked Victor and pushed me to Chloe, I was already crazy." He lowered his head to look for my lips and forced a kiss on me. I struggled and turned my face away. He only kissed my cheek. With a bang, I only felt the wind from the punch and didn't even see clearly how the other person threw the punch. Marcus had already fallen to the bang. I only felt the wind from the punch and didn't even see clearly how the other person threw the punch. Marcus had already fallen to the ground, but his eyes were still staring straight at me. He endured the pain and begged me in a trembling voice, "Emma, don't leave me, please." I had already looked away and looked at Victor. I stepped forward and hugged his waist tightly. I noticed that his whole body was stiff and uncomfortable. I lowered my voice and asked, "Why are you here?" He said, "You didn't reply to my message. I was worried that something might happen to you, so I came to have a look." I breathed a sigh of relief. Marcus was arrested and brought to justice. For illegally imprisoning others, although he was an accomplice, he was the main cause, and even escaping from law enforcement, which added to his crime. He wanted to see me. I went to see him. He had his hair cut short, and his former glory was gone. His eyes were full of depression and guilt. "Emma, the person I'm most sorry for in my life is you. I'm sorry for treating you so badly in my previous life. If I had remembered the past memories earlier and treated you better, everything would be." I interrupted his words. I stared straight at him, expressionless, and said in a low voice, "No. Since I decided to divorce, I didn't plan to like you anymore." His eyes became dull, and his whole body seemed to hunch over and become much thinner. "Marcus, the one you should be most sorry for is the company you founded with your own hands, because it was also our painstaking effort." I stopped paying attention to Marcus. He truly faded out of my life. Victor took me to many gatherings. I wanted to decline at first, but he raised his eyebrows and said, "Don't you want to start your own business? How can you do it without understanding the market situation?" "I already understand it all," I thought to myself, but I didn't dare to say it. When the gathering was about to end, when I went out to pay the bill and came back, I heard them discussing me inside. "Boss Victor, since you like this little girl so much, why don't you make her your secretary? People of their status usually like to give special treatment to those they like." They would transfer the person to their own office to be their personal secretary. Victor slightly raised his eyebrows, and his voice was full of indulgence. "This little girl has her own abilities. Why should I confine her by my side? What I can do is give her a platform to showcase her talents. That's enough." They looked at each other and smiled awkwardly. Most people didn't take it seriously. They thought that she was just a woman. A long time later, it was precisely this woman, me, who founded a top-notch female products company in China. When they saw that I was making money, they were envious, so they came to ask me for the secrets of making money. I smiled and said, "If you want to make money from women, you should first learn to respect women." Of course, that was all later. I pinched the corner of my clothes tightly outside the door. When it was time to leave, Victor, as usual, sent me to my doorstep. However, I didn't get out of the car. I turned my head and stared at him with a burning gaze. "Victor, you said before that we had met before. Would you mind telling me about it?" His thick black eyelashes fluttered slightly. "You don't want to know. You're not a fish. How can you know the happiness of a fish?" Finally, he was willing to talk about it. His journey of starting a business wasn't all smooth sailing. After his business failed, he didn't even have 5 yuan left in his pocket. He just sat in front of the convenience store, looking at the sky. I came out of the convenience store at that time and mistook him for a homeless man, so I took the initiative to buy him some food and drinks. It was just a piece of cake for me, and I didn't have much impression of it at all, but he remembered it forever in his mind. Later, when he saw me staying beside Marcus, that's why he took the initiative to give up some profits. I pursed my lips. Why didn't you say it from the beginning? Do you not want to mention it because you don't want to recall the hardships of starting a business back then? Well, I could understand that. He shook his head and looked away. I don't think the period when I started my business was a stain on me. I want to always show you my powerful and clean side. I put my hands on the sides of his face, turned his head back so that he could only look at me, and then slowly hugged him. No one is always powerful, and no one will always be weak. Besides, it's because of what you were in the past that you are what you are now. It's really cool that you succeeded in starting your business. Really? I nodded vigorously. Really? I think you're so handsome and cool. He thought for a long time. Under my gaze, the corners of his mouth turned up, as if there was a little hook, which made my heart itch. Then his charming voice came out. Think about making our relationship official. I'm a good deal. You'll definitely make a profit without losing anything. Layers of smiles appeared in my eyes. Well, then I'll reluctantly accept it. There will always be someone who shows up when I'm covered with scars and my heart is in tatters, letting me not lose the chance to love and be loved. Later, he said that his throat was almost parched that day. Fortunately, I liked it.